So what we're doing now, this is the rear main crank seal. So this is the old seal first, and then what we need to do is remove it. So all we do is we pop it on the vise. It doesn't have to be the vise, and then we'll grab a drive-through hammer, which I can just pop. Can you see that? Can just pop on there. Then I can just do a couple of taps, and it's gone. And we can start installing the new one. I'm just going to wipe around here, get rid of any excess oil. Then there's two sides of this. You want to have it in this way in. So all you do is you just rest it on a bed of wood, something like this. Start getting it into place. And then you use a rubber mallet and then just do some more taps. And you can see there, it's actually completely flush, and that's how you want it. Then when I've installed the seal, I can just remove all the old bits of Honda Bond or sealant. So you notice it's all just on the engine like this, and you can just remove the old bits and just make sure it's all out of the way. So I'll just remove the big bits with a screwdriver, and then I'll get a scraper and just clean up all those edges. This is a brand new oil pump I've got from Honda. You can see the part number 15100-PR4-A03. It's worth using a new oil pump on an engine, just so that you know it's in good condition. You could also have the old one checked, but I've just decided to buy a brand new one. It comes with the seal already installed. If you were reusing an old pump, you would just take the old one out and then just bang the new one in, just as we've done with the end seal. Make sure that this flat spot is lined up to the top of the engine. So you can see I can just move the crank over by hand, and that's about right. Then what you want to do is you want to lube this, the nose of the crank, and this is just to help the installation of the oil pump. Get this little O-ring, place that in the back of the oil pump. And then I'm going to use Honda Bond HT, which is a liquid silicone gasket, and I'm just going to place that around the mating surface of the back of this oil pump. And the idea behind that is it's going to seal to the block itself. So just come in, do that. I've got my Honda Bond around the outside of this new oil pump, and you can see I've got the flat spot here at the top, and that corresponds to the flat spot I have there. So that's going to allow the oil pump to move. Then I'll just place this on here, being careful not to lose the oil seal. Then there's 6 bolts that you need to do up to hold the oil pump onto the block. You want to do them up evenly. There's 2 12mm bolts here at the top. Okay, and then you've got 4 10mm at the bottom here. So just go round, do them all up. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bolts, and just do them all up. You can see the Honda Bond has kind of seeped out of these areas, so what I'm going to do is just wipe off the excess here, and this is kind of important because what you need to do is put the sump pan over the top of this, so if you don't have a nice clean surface it won't really seal properly, and also you know, it makes the whole thing look a bit neater. This is the rear oil sealing ring and plate. So what I'm going to do is, again, the same Honda Bond. I'm going to run around the edge of this and then mate it up to the back of the engine. One of the key points for this Honda Bond is you see these 2 areas here and here. I've already actually started to fill that one up with the Honda Bond. You need to make sure that you place some Honda Bond in this little bit, otherwise you'll get a leak at the bottom of the engine. So as before, we're going to first get a little bit of engine assembly lube. Just going to put it where the seal is going to go over. Again, the idea behind that is so that we don't do any damage to the seal itself. So I'll just rub some around here. That should be enough. Then I will get my end seal. So you can see here, this is the end seal with all of the Honda bond on it. Then I'm just going to put it in place, like so. Just need to be careful not to turn the seal inside out, just be very, very light and gentle. I'm using a little rotating movement. There we go, just seals in there nice. And then, just as before, probably just come in with this little hammer. Again, just light little movements, don't force it on. And then I can't really get to the bottom, so I'll just look to push that on there. I'll just push on the bottom and just tap on the top. And then I'll put the screws in. I've got the 5 10mm head bolts in there. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and I'm just going to tighten these up in turn, just being smooth. So I'm going to go the first one, then I'm going to go down here, and then I'm going to go to this one, then this one in a star pattern, just to even distribute the force on each of these. I'm just going to wipe off the excess that's come out of the actual seal in terms of the Honda bond, and just so that the mating surface is clear for the sump. Now I need to put the windage tray on, and what I've done first is just clean it all up so it looks like this, and I can just locate it. Like so. Then I have a number of bolts to put on. I've got 5 bolts and 2 nuts. So the 2 nuts, just 10mm nuts, and they just go on the back here and the front here. Obviously this is gearbox side again. Then I have 5 10mm, one in here, one in here. Just thread them in lightly first. Okay, and then just 3 at this side. If you like the exhaust side, I'm putting in 3 here, and then the last one here. And then what I'll do is I'll just get my 10mm ratchet and I'll just hunker them all down and then torque them up. After we've tightened down the nuts and bolts for the windage tray, the next thing we want to do is install the oil pickup. So first of all, we've got a new gasket here, so we're just going to place that in, and then we have the original oil pickup. So this just locates in here and here, so we'll just slide that on there, slide that on here, and then we have 2 nuts here and here, and we have 2 bolts here around the other side. And what it's doing is, it's because this engine's upside down at the moment, but this will be, oil will be sucked up through here and then go into the rest of the engine at this port. I've gone round and I've scraped off any remnants of the old gasket that was still remaining on the mating surface between the sump and the block, and then I'm going to put on the new sump gasket. So it'll only go one way round. This one has ribs facing up at you, and then on the gearbox side it seems to have 2 locators, and on the non-gearbox side you seem to have 3, so that's the way round it goes. So then you can just put these in the middle. So you see that's the stud is in the middle and it has two dimples either side, and then you just work your way around, just following that pattern. There we go. Then I'm just going to go to the sump itself, and I can show you that these dimples, you want to put on a little bit of Honda Bond onto every single dimple, and that's just to complete the seal. Some people don't say you need to do that, but I'm just going to do that on each of the dimples. I've put some Honda Bond on each of those points where the dimples go on, so we get a proper seal. And then I can just put the sump on here. You'll see it will go over those studs. And then I have 11 bolts and 8 nuts to go on each of these. And what you'll notice as you do them up is the whole seal will press down a bit, so it's good to actually just work round and increase the torque as you go. One mistake that I nearly made is that these two sensors have the same thread size, so I thought they were one was the other. Either way, this is the temperature sensor for the coolant, so this is meant to go into the side of the sun head up here, and I'll show you that in a bit. And then this is the knock sensor, which is based on an accelerometer, and that measures knock activity of the engine. So, say for example, if you had a low octane fuel you're using, or some situation like that, that can induce knock on the engine. So they're the same thread, so just watch out for that. Then putting the knock sensor where it should be, which is in here, the top of the block, you can do is just get a little bit of this Honda Bond. And this isn't actually sealing anything because there's actually a blank inside that, but you just want to put some sealant on here just to stop anything going past the sensor and collecting moisture inside the sensor hole more than anything else. So just put a bit on there, and look to be, you can just do that. Okay, and then it says in the manual you're going to have a 27mm socket. I do, but you needed probably a deep one, so instead I'm just going to thread it on by hand as much as I can, which is about to there, and then just come in here with the adjustable, and then just on the flats, just do it up. You don't even need to do it up ridiculously tight, but tight enough. I have the oil pressure sensor. Notice that it has a hole in the end, and that's purely measuring the pressure of the oil as the engine's running. So then I'll place that with some Honda Bond. The threads, just a little bit. And place that just here. That I'm going to tighten up with a 24mm socket. I'll just cut that. That's tight. Then finally, I have the oil filter assembly. So here, this is from Glow Shift. I could just install the oil filter as it is, so that can just go straight on there if that's how I'm going to do it, and that's the standard installation. But instead of that, I'm going to use this unit. This is because I have some gauges in the car, one of which is the oil temperature, another is the oil pressure. So I'm going to first make sure that it's nice and clean, place it in an orientation that it can fit on the vehicle, on the engine here, and then I can just install, they give you these adapters, so I can thread that in there. And then with a 27mm socket, I can just tighten that up. Just enough. Then grab the oil filter. When I'm ready to actually fill this up with oil, I'll probably run a ring of oil around here, and then just tighten that on. You don't need to go mental tight on that, just enough. Here I have a new water pump. Funny thing being, it seems to be made by a Nissan pump, so it's a bit wrong, but you'll see here it's for the Honda Civic and Integra B series, so I think it fits all of them. Well worth replacing the pump. We have again the Honda Bond. I'm going to run this round the whole periphery. I've smoothed in the Honda Bond right round the periphery of the water pump. I then have the rubber seal, so that will just drop in here. Just push it in a bit, somewhat. Okay. This goes in here. So just using the rubber hammer, just knock that home. It has some dowels in it, so it becomes apparent when. But you notice I'm not actually hitting the pump itself, the wheel of the pump, because then I'll end up damaging it. Here's the old pump, and this shows the power of leaving everything as it was when you took the engine to bits, because you can see not all of these are the same length. I'm simply going to use each of them in the same orientation as they were. So if I spin it around to how it was, and you notice they're not all the same length, so I'm going to use this one in the same hole as it came off, and so on. Begun tightening down all of these 10mm bolts here, so I'll continue to put some torque on them and work in a cross formation just to even out the distribution of pressure on the surface. You don't need to go crazy with these bolts because they're only 10mm, just enough. And that's tight. So I've tried a few different things. That doesn't fit because that's fouling on here, so I'm going to have to lose that and just go back to the OEM connection. So it's a bit of a pity, but it is what it is. With the water coolant neck, I'm going to use the old gasket, rubber gasket here, and what I'm going to do is, just shine a light in there, is feed it in and try to crimp the side of it. So you can see, if you use the other side of this coolant neck, it'll just feed in nicely. Just push and rotate and you'll see it will go nicely the whole way in. Then over here you have two screws. You've got one really long screw in the top and one shorter screw. They're both 10mm. And just line them up and you can begin threading them in. The top connection for the oil breather chamber, I'm just going to whack a tiny bit of Honda Bond on there, place that in there, then I'll just thread it up tighten that with a 14mm breather chamber. I'm using the same O-ring here as is originally installed. All I need to then is place it in here, walk it in. There's a 12mm bolt that goes in the bottom there, and then this just swings around again. That's the oil breather chamber fully installed.